Hello and welcome. I'm Barkha. You're with the Mojo Story. We were among the first media platforms to showcase and shine a light on the anti-Muslim violent hate slogans that were raised in the heart of the capital. And we are happy to report that there have been developments now in that case. Let's bring up our big story and a continued focus on what seems to be rising Islamophobia in India. This is our top story. A Delhi BJP member, Ashwini Upadhyay, is among five others who has been arrested after that anti-Muslim hate congregation took place in the heart of the capital. Ashwini Upadhyay, a former Delhi BJP spokesperson, had disassociated himself from the slogans and had in fact said that he was merely a speaker at the rally and did not recognize the men who were literally calling for violence against Indian Muslims. Slogans included a line that said Hindustan mein rehna hai to Jai Shri Ram kehna hai. Meanwhile, Kareena Kapoor is being attacked for a name that she has given to her newborn child. Her newborn is called Jai Ali Khan. Remember what happened with Kareena Kapoor and Taimur. The question remains, is rising Islamophobia a truth of our times? An inconvenient truth maybe, but a truth that it is time to confront and stare in the eye. That is our big focus on the Mojo Story today. And let us bring up our panel of very diverse voices, ideologies, and opinions. Joining me first on the program is Asif Rameez Daudi, who's an educationist and a columnist. Welcome. We're also joined by veteran police officer Ellen Rao. Remember, the police has acted with alacrity this time, but till yesterday it was being criticized for filing a case against unknown person. It has amended that, but we'll examine a little more closely whether these men will remain in detention. Ambreen Zaidi is a columnist, an educationist, also a military wife. I mentioned the second because it's a passion close to her heart and a space in which she does a lot of work. Sandip Ghose, our favorite contrarian columnist, is in the house. Welcome, Sandip. Always a pleasure to have you back. Ranjana Kumari, another one of our favorite guests, feminist, policy maker, outspoken opinion maker. Thank you. And Tehseen, Poonawalla, who was threatening to sit on a protest if the police did not take action. Well, the police has taken action against what many are calling genocidal slogans raised against Muslims. So in fact, Tehseen, let me start with you because, you know, you're a Congress supporter, of course, but this is not a party political conversation. This is a conversation about whether we are looking at rising Islamophobia, from whether, the way Kareena Kapoor is attacked for what she chooses to name her children, to what happened in the heart of the capital. Are you assuaged now that the police has in fact acted and taken strong action, including against a man who was a spokesperson for the BJP? Tehseen.
No, I don't think we should read too much into the police taking action, though I've thanked them on Twitter for it, because this was clearly contempt of court in the Tehseen Poonawalla versus Union of India mob lynching judgment, in which the Honorable Supreme Court had come down very, very categorically and said how mob lynching and mob violence is separate from other violence and how there is a build-up to mob violence. So if you read that judgment, Supreme Court has gone into details defining what constitutes a mob and how mobs are often used to raise temperatures to therefore create mob violence or riot-like situations. It's a very clear judgment. So they were in contempt. So one of the things that I threatened and I tweeted to the Delhi police was I would sit at the Supreme Court playing those videos and of course file a contempt petition against the Delhi police. That's one aspect to it. And look, let me just say, I dare say, these were small fish in Delhi. But I would believe that the police acts against mob violence or rising hate if it takes action against the big fish. For example, we know that there was. Let me give you an example. For example, when the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh now, as member of Parliament, a constitutional post, is on a stage. Please fact check me. He's on a stage, and his people say that the dead bodies of Muslim women should be raped. Buried bodies should be brought out and raped. And this member of parliament does not stop. He then goes on to withdraw cases against himself as he's the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. When the home minister of India says in a rally in Delhi that current yahan maro taki Shaheen Bagh mein current button dabao taki Shaheen Bagh mein current lage, creating frenzy. When you have desh ke gaddaro ko goli maro I cannot even use the word, said by a union minister, on stage and encouraging mob. So one is to directly encourage. Second is you encourage mobs to create a frenzy and thereby create a communal divide. I just want to end by saying one thing. You may technically say that I didn't break the law. I was just on the stage. I didn't shout it. Somebody else in the mob shouted. In the mobs were shouting it. But the American Supreme Court and the American Senate has gone to it. They've gone through this and they've understood what constitutes lynching. And 100 years from when lynching started in America, the American Senate apologized to the American people and said, we are sorry that we allowed this to happen. By allowing mobs to do this is also being a part of it. And that's where the police does not take action with the big fish.
Okay, let me, you've given a number of examples. You've pointed fingers at Yogi Adityanath. You are, of course, talking about the Delhi, a slogan that went up before the Delhi riots and then continued through the Delhi campaign. We had people like Kapil Mishra who continue to reiterate it with an almost kind of brazenness. So you believe the police has acted against what you call small fish. I would be curious to know how long these men actually remain in and what are the charges under which they will be, that will be applied to them. Mr. Rao, the role of the police, I think, is something you would have a view on. So let me bring you in before we open this up to look at the larger issues that are thrown up by this. Go ahead, Ellen Rao.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. The police has taken action against all these 5 persons, and the case, as I'm told by the media and by the police spokesperson also, case under section 153A, 188 IPC has been registered.
And can you explain simply what these sections are?
Yes. Section 188 is the violation of the any order of the government and any order of the premises that no person should hold a rally without permission by the police. And I think that in this case the permission was not granted to them, and that's why this 188 has been clamped on them. Another section which is stated to be that 150A of IPC that says that the promoting enmity between different groups on ground of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, and doing an prejudicial to the maintenance of harmony. By doing any act, speaking or any displaying anything, then if there is some hatredness between the some communities on the basis of race and creed and place of birth, etc., it is created, then this offense is made out. This is a cognitive offense, and the maximum punishment in this offense is 3 years. And if this same act has been done at a place of worship, there are 2 parts of this section. There, one is at a normal place, and the another is that at the place of a worship. If the similar act is committed at the place of worship, like a temple, mosque, or any church or anywhere, then the offense.
What do you think will happen to these men now? Given the sections, Mr. Rao, that have been used, these are obviously bailable offences. If I'm not wrong.
Yes, if the offence is 3 years, then it's bailable. And if I was going to that workshop worship, that was a sentence is 5 years. In that case, I think that offence is non-bailable. But here in this case, the offences are bailable, and if the offences are bailable, then the police has to release them on bail on any surety. So there are very less chances that these persons are to be sent to the jail.
To prison. Okay.
Yeah, to the prison.
Thank you for explaining that to us. We have many more questions on the role of the police, which we'll come back to.
Sure. I'm sorry.
Yes. Sandip, my question for you is quite simply this. A number of people have said that imagine now if these were Muslims on stage. And I'm not saying that Indian Muslims, particularly those who are in politics, have never made a hate speech. We have most recently examples that have come from Bengal, where in fact the Congress was criticized by its own members for being in bed with a strident Islamist. And I will ask Tehseen to respond to that later. But the question was somewhat different, that if these had been Muslims on stage making a hate speech and not been arrested, under graver charges, there would have been an outcry among the right wing. Do you believe that here people are still getting away quite easy? 1 and 2, let's remind our viewers, and we have pictures of that This is the second such anti-Muslim event in the outskirts of the capital in a few days. There was what's called a Mahapanchayat that took place against a Hajj house in an area called Dwarka. We have those pictures as well. But Sandip, there, you're seeing those pictures. Go ahead, Sandip.
See, first of all, Barkha, I must preface my statements to say I have come to the show essentially to discuss what's happened yesterday and whether that is symptomatic of a larger malaise. I am not here to discuss this whole larger picture, essentially because I don't have Tehseen's kind of knowledge of 100 years of American history or, for that matter, even Indian history, to go back to times of whether it's pre-independence, post-independence, whatever. So I really can't get into that or what Yogi Adityanath allegedly had said. I'm also not a legal expert to know what Supreme Court has said. So I can confine myself only to what's happened yesterday. First of all, I don't think what we must in some ways commend is the action taken by the police. And police was very, very categorical that this has happened and we have to take action. I think that itself is first of all, I don't want to get into semantics. You talk of Islamophobia. What I understand by phobia per se is fear. It is not hate. Okay, so we are talking about hate or
well, I mean, it's a word loosely used to connote both.
Would be used, but I think we need to distinguish among all these things. So if you were to ask me about Islamophobia in the country, I personally don't think there has been any substantive change, if you were to quote unquote use that, over the years. How many riots have we had in the last so many years? Riots have come down. What the kind of riots we used to have? And okay, there are these incidents. I'm not calling them either stray incidents or the fringe actors saying those things happen, but I think we conflate them much more by these kind of statements of, trying to relate it to a variety of things and what Amit Shah allegedly said or Yogi Adityanath said.
So you continue to believe, do you continue to believe therefore
my worry
it's an isolated fringe?
No, I'm not isolated. I think my bigger problem is people trying to label these things immediately. Yesterday, there was a very respected journalist who immediately tweeted, there is Hindu terror happening within a stone's throw of Prime Minister's house. Why do you have to straight away label these things either as a Hindu terror or Islamic terror or anything of that kind? Like you are saying, if tomorrow the Islamists made a statement like this, irrespective of religion, the police should act over there. And a question of outcry, but you're talking of right-wing outcry, the left-wing outcry is far more exaggerated and amplified, and sometimes which has been seen on not very accurate facts. And the whole thing is when you put this into a large context and create this thing in India, there is now this whole problem of religious freedom and violence against minorities, etc. I think we are actually not helping anybody.
Okay. I just want a brief response from Tehseen, and then I want to go to Asif and Ambreen. I don't know where we've lost Ranjana. Tehseen, to Sandeep's point, that this is an incident-wise commentary, or should be. And when you extrapolate to draw larger conclusions about the country, you are doing a disservice. And in this case, the police has in fact acted with alacrity. You would say what?
The data from the Home Ministry, which Rajnath Singh ji himself read out in Parliament of India and I submitted in the Honorable Supreme Court, shows that hate crimes have gone up 80% since Mr. Narendra Modi ji became Prime Minister of India. And 90% of that 80% increase in hate.
What source are you quoting?
NCRB. Rajnath Singh in NCRB.
We are going totally on a tangent, Barkha. If that is the kind of
discussion, if I may be allowed
I'm not a part of it. No, you are allowed. I will withdraw.
No, I'm just
because this is not the. He'll get into Rajnath saying what has happened in the. Let's discuss this issue.
But
if he is getting onto that space of what Narendra Modi's time has happened, etc., I'm not party to this discussion.
Okay.
Why?
Let's focus.
When it suits you,
1 minute.
That is the problem. That is the problem.
Both of you just pause and allow me to frame the conversation. We are looking at what took place in the capital to ask a question, Sandip, which I think is a reasonable question. Is this an incident which is isolated, or is there something to a perception that there is rising Islamophobia? That said, Tehseen, at the moment, if you have done your own computation of the data from the NCRB, we are not right now in a position to evaluate it. Our latest study is, of course, from the Pew Research Survey, which basically threw up India as a kind of thali model as opposed to a khichdi model, where both Hindus and Muslims seem to reflect a faith in their own customs against interreligion marriage, and also a kind of creeping ghettoization. Now, Tehseen, make a brief point about Islamophobia, and let me get Ambreen and Asif to react to it, please. Tehseen.
Of course, there is Islamophobia, and that's been fueled by the current dispensation. It's been the fuel has been put in the fire by the current dispensation. It's actively encouraged it rather than saying, no, this is not how a country should be run. That is not to say that there isn't hate the other side, like you said it. For example, the OACs, I will take the name. They continuously make hate speech, and Ambreen is on the show with me. And both Ambreen and I have been on social media denouncing both these extremists. But you must ask a question, Barkha. Who tends to benefit with this violence? Unless we don't ask the right question, we don't get the right answers. And Yale University and United Nations says every time there seems to be violence and ghettoization, the extremes tend to benefit, in which case the Bharatiya Janata Party, the current ruling party, benefits, and the MIM seems to be benefiting from it by increasing vote percentage. So you have two parties polarizing India, seeming to benefit from it, and thereby taking space away from people like me who are middle of the center.
What did you feel when a party you support tied up with someone whose speeches were as filled with hatred as the kind we heard in the capital yesterday? Is a question I want you to think about, because if I don't move on, the others
if you can be specific, I can understand. Who are you talking about?
Are you talking about
the
OAC,
about the
right? West Bengal, yes, the West Bengal Alliance, which was condemned by Anand Sharma, among other of your, leaders of the party you support. So let's park that just for a moment. I want Ranjana, Ambreen, and Asif to react, and Sandip to calm down, who's in an uncharacteristically cantankerous mood today. Ambreen, let me start by bringing you in. You know, as someone who's married into the military community, I know that your perspective of these things must be quite different from civilians. Go ahead, and when you see this, what goes through your mind? Married, as I said, into the Fauji world, married to someone who wears the uniform for the country, but also upholding the values of that country, the constitutional values and freedoms of that country.
Barkha, it is heartbreaking. What happened yesterday was indeed heartbreaking. But I must tell you, this Islamophobia is a seasonal fruit, which is most ripe and most attractive when we are fast approaching some elections. Having said that, I must share a example with you. It happened with a son of a very close friend of mine. And it was a winter session in school, and during recess, the children were having their lunch. And suddenly, this one child from some other section comes to the door and calls out, I'm changing the name, calls out this child's name, Javed, Allahu Akbar. He pulls out his blazer and Allahu Akbar. That is how much this Islamophobia has damaged our children. That is what I stand against. But tell me what happened yesterday, the sloganeering, the threat for Muslim genocide, the rape threats, the Sulli deal. Where has it come from? Just a few weeks back, you, Tehseen is here, and most of us on the panel were fighting for each other, saving each other's lives, right? We were not bothered about religion. Okay, no, he's a Muslim, I won't save him. He's a Hindu, I won't save him. Oxygen cylinder, concentrators, medicines. We were trying to save a human. We were trying to save a Indian. And suddenly, Sulli deal comes. Then a reciprocal thing comes for the other community. Women are targeted. And now this hate speech. This is not us. Barkha, why can't we act in a mature way? Sit across the table. I know what is wrong in my community, and I speak against it. And there are many people who abuse me left, right, and center, and it is my Hindu brothers who defend me at that point of time. So why can't the people from the other communities sit and acknowledge the shortcomings of their community, call these people out who are trying to break the social fabric of India, which is already very torn, and Why can't we just have a mature conversation?
Because if everyone were rational, the extremist, there are two, let me respond to that. One, the problem is that the extremists of any community always speak louder, and then they always get the headlines. That is the other thing that happens. And I think the vast majority of India that continues to be, commonsensical, centrist, pluralistic, doesn't get their voices heard, and then a kind of creeping fear comes that the extremists, get to define the agenda. Asif, how would you see this? Because on the day that we are discussing this, and Sandip, I know you want to discuss only this incident, but you can't divorce this incident from what's happening around us. Take a look at what's happening with Kareena Kapoor, and I want to come to that in a moment. But Asif, how do you see what's happened? And again, I will underline that the police has made 5 arrests, 5+1 arrests. Ashwini Upadhyay was a spokesperson of the BJP, and he is now under arrest. He may not go to prison, as Ellen Rao explained to us, because it's a bailable charge. But go ahead, Mr. Asif.
Barkha, thank you very much for having me here. The country where I have lived and I'm from, I'm proud of that country. And I have seen the unity in diversity. But here, what happened yesterday, if I would like to quote, I personally believe in humanity, in communal harmony. All my columns are all about bringing people together. So India is a country that believes in the idea of India, that is togetherness, that is insaniyat, that is Hindustanian. Having said that, there should be no place for hatred against any particular section of the society, anywhere in the world or here in India. What happened yesterday should not happen. If anyone indulged in, if there is an indulgence of people in such sloganeerings and bringing hatred,
right,
in the society, that should not be encouraged. And if the Prime Minister's own idea, one thing is the idea of India, the other one is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikash, Sabka Vishwas. While our own Honorable Prime Minister is trying to win the trust of every society and every community, those who are trying to indulge in these kinds of, anti-social activities, they are actually diminishing and denigrating the idea that the Prime Minister himself is bringing towards the society.
Okay,
so
and
what I have
that
to say
happened yesterday is that Ashwini Upadhyay's Twitter bio very quickly changed from the morning where he was described he described himself as a BJP member to having that reference removed, which clearly somebody asked him to do. That said, Sandip, to your point, and he's also, by the way, deleted all tweets, Sandip, of that event. One of the points that Tehseen made was small fish, right? Who knew Ashwini Upadhyay, other than the fact that he went to court for a new population law? So how do you respond to Tehseen's point that this is small fish? And then I want to open this up to the larger currents that we're seeing, including what's happening with actor Kareena Kapoor Khan. Sandip.
See, first of all, when you talk about all the events surrounding, I have no quarrels with that. We must discuss that. My problem is when you take up and say, Ashwini Upadhyay is a small fish, why didn't you arrest Yogi Adityanath or Amit Shah earlier? I think the equivalences are false. I totally agree with Afreen that there should be reasonable, dialogue, a balanced dialogue. And there are very few people who can do that, unfortunately, today. And those who can, like people like us, some of us around, we should promote that sort of a dialogue, because that's the only way we can move forward. So yesterday's, whether this is a small fish, big fish, I don't think that is. Now, coming back to your point of Islamophobia, that is what has happened today. You are asking me what would have happened if Islam people had made. I can tell you, that's my perception, somebody may say wrong, that in that situation, police would have been far more apprehensive or worried about acting, because they didn't know that how it would flare up. And that's why your old channel yesterday just took off that picture, which they had put in very rightly, of a Muslim person getting tested for RT-PCR, when somebody whom I would otherwise consider to be a moderate or a sensible Muslim, who sent out a threat saying that, please, my DM is open, who had put up this picture, and NDTV straight away, deleted that tweet and
Okay,
everything.
I didn't follow in particular who.
That is Islamophobia.
But
Because
one
if
second.
you're today afraid of the reaction, and
Yeah.
that is what's happening across the country. So
I
that is
think-
the other
I
side, but
think
I don't
there are
want to
two
get
separate
dragged into that.
conversations here. Sorry,
Point which
I
you are
just wanted-
saying, no,
Yeah.
point which you are saying about Kareena Kapoor, etc., I'm very, very willing to discuss, and those are.
And I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
I'm coming to that. But I just want to also make a point, and we did it ourselves in this program just now, minutes ago, that somehow when we talk about Indian Muslims, there is a visual stereotyping, which is a man with a beard and a skull cap. There are Muslims, two of them are sitting on this program, who neither have beards nor skull caps. And I think we also owe it to our fellow citizens to go beyond that visual representation. And we just did it ourselves. This program just did it, right? So I'm saying, while I'm not for, what happened between NDTV and some person, I personally, as a visual storyteller, do not like stereotypes of anybody, of women, of Muslims.
No, I agree. That's fair.
All of that. Yeah.
So taking out a picture is no issue.
Other point, because I am curious to discuss why Kareena Kapoor's children drive this country or parts of it into frenzy. Ranjana, go ahead. Both what happened in the heart of the capital and the larger commentary around alleged rising Islamophobia.
Well, Barkha, what happened yesterday is really being supported, backed by political forces in the country. I do not want to believe that the police was standing there watching people violating the law. The same sections that
Ranjana, we can barely hear you. You need to be a little louder. You need to be a little louder.
I'm just saying that I do not want to believe that what happened yesterday is not being backed by political forces, because the same sections, as Mr. Rao told us about, are the sections which should have been applied then. Police was standing right there, and look at the way these people were shouting obnoxious, absolutely ridiculous slogans, and police did not act. They did not arrest anybody. How do you really want to believe that it was really an act of a mob and just like that, and it was not pre-orchestrated? It was pre-orchestrated, and this is what is happening. And also, I refuse to believe that there is a need for community dialogue in our country, in the villages, in the small city towns. People live very harmoniously. There is no fight going on, but the kind of venom that has been spread around, across, and this whole thing is really politically motivated. UP election is coming, and everybody wants to divide the community so that vote can come. I think there is a harm which has been going on against the Constitution of India. This is against the democratic spirit of India, and also this is really something which is absolutely unacceptable as far as Hindu-Muslim relationship is concerned in the country. It's not stereotyping. It's not only just one more minute. It's not just stereotyping of the image that we present of the Muslim, but it is also a stereotyping of the falling apart. The people, two communities are falling apart. They're not. We travel all the time. I come from a village. We live together. We dine together. We have all kinds of festivals we celebrate together. These are the people, just for political motive, are trying to create this wedge between the two communities. So I refuse to believe that this was not pre-made.
I just want a response from Mr. Ellen Rao on the role of the police. Okay, because I do want to open this up and also look at why what someone names their children should attract the kind of attention it does. But Ellen Rao, we had Anmol Preetham on this program yesterday. He's a journalist who was also asked to say Jai Shri Ram or threatened with consequences. And he basically said the police was there, it was in uniform. Why would the police not step in while this was happening? Yes, the police has acted now, but why didn't the police step in at this moment when all of this was unfolding?
Barkha, first of all,
Sorry, sir, I'll just unmute you. Sorry, sir. Go ahead. 1 minute, sir.
Yeah.
I'm having to handle everything. Yes, go ahead, sir.
I'll come to your question a little bit later, but first of all, I want to correct myself, because the sections which have been implied by the police, that is 153A, is non-bailable. Police cannot take bail in this case. Even the magistrate may or may not take a bail in this case. If he doesn't take bail, then people will be going to prison. And 188 section is bailable, of course. So I want to correct myself in that. Coming to your
that's an important detail. That's an important detail. Thank you for letting us know that. Yes.
And coming to the question right now, which you have said, the why police did not take action immediately when these things were being cited at that site. So here that I must tell you that police who are present there, they are manning the land or the situation. They may not be the actual from the local police. That when the case is registered, when the complaint is made to the police comes into action at that very moment under section 154 of CRPC. But that the police, when get a complaint about any cognizable offence, even only after that the people can be arrested in that case. But definitely, if there is some serious offence is being committed in front of police, then definitely police can intervene and stop that commission of that serious cognizable offence.
And sir, just to clarify, Mr. Rao, just to clarify, a last comment from you on this case. The non-bailable offence, now what happens? Will it now be up to the court?
Yes, there are two types of offences. One is bailable. Then in that bailable offence, the police has to take bail in that. In any case, in that offence is non-bailable, then the police will not take bail at their own. They will have to produce that person before the magistrate, and the court may or may not take bail in that non-bailable offence. If the court takes bail, then he is released on bail from the court. And if it does not take bail, then the person is sent to the judicial custody. That is, you can say that he is sent to the prison. That is the two difference between bailable and non-bailable.
Now I want to step out. I want to step out and zoom out of this moment and look at whether it's telling us something about our society. Here is what happened with actor Kareena Kapoor Khan on Twitter today. If you look at some of these screenshots that we're going to bring up in just a moment from now, you would see that the word Aurangzeb was trending in affiliation with her name. Why was this happening? It was happening because Kareena Kapoor Khan told Karan Johar, as her book on pregnancy comes out, that she had named her second born Jay Ali Khan. Many of you would remember that when she had named her firstborn Taimur, there was such an obsessive outcry, and she later told me in an interview that she was absolutely scarred by that focus, but she decided to stick to her guns. Now, these are the kind of comments that Tehseen, Sandip, you're seeing them, all the rest of you are seeing them on your screen. How can it bother anybody what somebody names their child? I just do not understand it. Tehseen, do you want to jump in this? One way of looking at it is these are trolls. Why are we giving them time? But the fact is that after interviewing Kareena, I can tell you that the impact of this is real. Whether or not these are trolls, the impact of this is real. Tehseen, go ahead, and then Amreen, and then I want the others to react.
It's the impact is real. I'd seen that interview of yours with Kareena, and her chacha who passed away was a very, very dear friend of my wife and I. And I remember having this conversation with him at a friend's dinner, and the entire family did not know what had hit them when an innocent child, when you wish death upon an innocent child, Barkha, on an innocent child. And it was not trolls, Barkha. It was done by verified people who support one ideology and one political party. And that is what I'm trying to say. The fringe is now the mainstream. I want to slightly deviate from Kareena Kapoor and remind your viewers, because the Dr. Saab on your show said, the Prime Minister wants Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas. The Prime Minister says that, but the Prime Minister never makes statements that are grand, that tell people that hate is not the way forward and we must stop it. He never does that. What does the Prime Minister say? He says, "Inko mat maro, mujhe maro." Why should somebody be killed? Who are killing should be put behind jail. I want to give you another example before I end. I had filed a case against the Prime Minister while he was a sitting Prime Minister with the Election Commission, because the Prime Minister in an election rally in Jharkhand said, "Dangayo ko apne kapdon se pehchana jata hai." The Prime Minister was trolling Muslims. This is during the CAA thing. It's not hidden. So this is what has happened. The fringe is now the mainstream. And therefore, you had absolute prominent people in a right-wing party wishing for death upon a young child.
Let's get responses to this. Amreen, that's what I wanted to say. It's always a very tough decision whether you amplify this kind of Twitter bakwas. Sorry to use this word bakwas, because it is bakwas, because, are you providing oxygen to those who do this? But again, I will go by what Kareena told me, that she was traumatized, she was hurt, she was angry, she was scarred. In fact, we have a little clip and we'll try and play that out in a moment from now. But Amreen, your response.
Barkha, we have to make things better for our kids. Be it Kareena, be it me, be it Tehseen, be it anyone. And the way we are going towards hell. We are going towards bloodshed and nothing else. This hatred will kill each one of us one day. Where is it? Where are we heading as a society? So this has to stop, and you and me will have to do it. We cannot depend on others to you hold our hand and be our messiahs and do the needful. Now we will have to jump in and stop this nonsense.
When you see, Amreen, someone, and this is an interreligious marriage, which is why it attracts this kind of attention. Everybody has an opinion, what the names are, who the names are they Muslim, are they Hindu? You would say what, Amreen?
It's their life. It's their choice. Let them do whatever they want to do. Do we ever question Twinkle Khanna or Akshay Kumar or, about naming their children? So let them be. Let them enjoy the birth of their child. That is it. And yes, you asked me this question, coming from a Fauji background, I'm proud of it because my children have grown amongst all the religions, and they don't, identify themselves only as Muslims. And in a way, I have I get a feeling that I have religion proofed them. There's no hatred in their hearts for any other religion. And I'm really thankful and I think I'm blessed that I'm a part of the Indian Army so that I give my children that kind of a childhood and that kind of a upbringing.
Sandip, how do you react to this Twitter trend? My instinct, as I told you, would have been to ignore it. But then it comes in juxtaposition with the kind of Hindustan mein rehna hai, to Jai Shri Ram kehna hai. And at the other end of it is the military tradition of the Mandir, Masjid, Gurdwara, the Sarv Dharm Sthals, not just tolerating each other's religions, but actually participating in them.
First, I'd like to say, Barkha, I don't know how many blue tick accounts have taken this issue up or whether these were real trolls or blue ticks. I can't comment. I trust Tehseen that it might have been blue tick, just like the person who threatened NDTV was also a blue tick, but that doesn't matter. Social media has, opened this, and you, for one, know how much you have been trolled for your name or whatever things. And
I'm constantly called Burkha instead of Barkha, for example.
All of that. So I think, but this has to be condemned. But this is something which we are living with. And I don't want to get into, it's getting a controversial area. To some extent, Kareena Kapoor attracts this because they also raise the PR profile of their kids, and they do that, and therefore I suppose they attract many other people in cross.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
See, it doesn't get to know. You see, you're attracting people because there are these trolls, millions of thousands of trolls floating around in your social media today. And because this attracts a higher profile, I'm not justifying it. You see, therefore you attract the troll.
You sound like you're blaming them for it.
No. Please get me wrong. I'm not blaming them for it. I think that's why you attract, because you are a high-profile person. So therefore people talk about a burqa and a barkha. There are several other barkhas on Twitter who don't get trolled in the same way. So I'm saying that while we must all come down on this heavily, but we should not also really amplify this, as you are saying, and doing that. And we need to. No,
but let me play out. I know Tehseen wants to respond, and then I want to play out what Kareena said to me.
Different view. Everybody may have a different view. So I want to make it clear, I'm neither justifying these people nor that, but this is symptomatic of the.
Tehseen, brief interjection, then Ranjana and Asif, and then I want to play out that clip and take last comments. Tehseen, brief interjection.
I just have one line to say. I thought we'd come far off from the days where we started blaming women for problems that happen on them. We've now moved to new India where we blame kids for them being trolled basically because they're high profile kids. What is the difference between this new India and old India where we told a woman, oh, you're raped, or you deserve this fate because you wore small clothes, or you were out late in the night?
Very perverted discussion.
No, I am just saying
these discussions, Barkha, with such people who will take one statement in isolation despite.
But you can't blame a child.
Children.
You can't blame a child.
It is ridiculous.
You can't blame a child, Sandip.
You are ridiculous.
So wrong.
He's not doing
now
it.
you said why Narendra Modi will get into.
No, you said the child's profile has been raised.
No, I have not blamed the child at all. I have only said
Nobody's blaming.
So then say,
just say,
just say those people are wrong. I respect you. Say those people are wrong.
I have said that. I have said that
okay,
they're
let's
wrong.
agree. Let's seal it on that. Let's seal it on that. It is wrong.
Twist these
Fair
things
point.
to make it. You are politicizing things when we are discussing
Sandip,
a big
I think what I'm
issue.
hearing you say, is that if you have a public profile, you will get more than your share of trolls, is what I'm hearing you say. Not that you think those trolls are correct. Ranjana, very quickly, if you want to jump in. Ranjana, and you're...
Sorry, my system was not functioning well today and I could not participate in the whole debate. But I want to make a point here that if social media profile of people attracts attention, that does not mean that people must start attacking them. It doesn't anywhere justify the kind of attack that people are doing on the occasion. So I think you are also not justifying, I understand, but please, indirectly, surrogately, we should not say that what they are doing is right. No way. Whether my profile or anybody's profile may be vendor not there. Anyway, that's one point. But I want to make here a point which is very important, and I wanted to say it here, is that all this which is happening, igniting this, the kind of feelings that has been done in the country, and also if there is a political motivation behind it, then it has to be taken up by the politician and really review it, especially by the opposition politicians and those groups. They must come together and see that all these people who are trying to, kind of just for the vote, creating a very deep divide slowly in our society, which has not reached the villages, which has not still reached our real people of India. I think this is a matter of concern. Because
but it's important to remind people again and again that the instinct of the large mass of Indians is not the extreme that gets amplified either on mainstream or on social media. This you have to just underline every day. Asif, a very quick response from you. You made the point that the Prime Minister, has a slogan and he's being let down by his own people. What action do you expect or want the Prime Minister then to take against these kind of characters?
I'm expecting action like whatever that comes under the, prevailing laws and constitution, because India is a country where we have constitution, and any action that should be taken as per the constitution. But let me reiterate, there should be no place for hatred in a civil society, in a country like India, be it Islamophobia, be it hating someone, or as you are mentioning about Kareena Kapoor's son's name having Jay or Jahangir. I was watching your interview with Kareena a few hours ago, and I was keenly listening to you, and I can understand the pain. What I say, what's in a name? What we call a rose.
But the point is that
would smell as sweet.
Yes, that's what
but any other name would smell as sweet.
Names today are extremely.
So I have to make a point here. Like those who are trying to target or troll for the, just to have or name his or her son, giving a particular name, they should have some kind of knowledge about that. Historical background as well. Here, Jahangir, I have many friends named Jahangir. Even if you look at the historical background.
If Kareena wanted to name her child Aurangzeb, it's her business. It doesn't matter what the history of Jahangir
she can name her child as Maharana Pratap Singh. It's her choice. No one has a right.
It's none of anybody's business what a parent wants.
It's none of anyone's business.
It's only parents can decide.
Barkha, I was telling you, like Jahangir, Akbar's policy of universal peace.
So that's it. And we are now going to go to what Kareena said to me when her firstborn was attacked for his name. Listen in. How have you dealt with the crazy, demented media scrutiny on not you as an actor, but on Taimur, on now your pregnancy? It is insane. I don't understand it. I'm a journalist. I think I get media, but I cannot understand it. They're obsessed with what you named him. First, they judge you for naming him Taimur, then they stalk you everywhere. I mean, pagalpan beyond description. How have you coped with it? Was there a time when you were just appalled? Like, just take me through what this has been like for you.
It's actually, it's been overwhelming for both Saif and me, but I think we have kind of really held it together, like right from the time Temur was born. Firstly, what happened about his name was just ghastly.
Yeah.
And it
disgusting.
was something that
just disgusting.
And I will never forget it. And it's obviously scarred me deeply as a person and as a mother, because what I name my child, what I call him is completely my discretion and of nobody else's concern.
Yeah.
So that it started on that note, and then obviously what he looks like, what he's doing, where he's going, the most photographed baby, so and so. And I mean, obviously I was just like, what is going on, and why is this happening to this 2-month-old baby who barely opened his eyes? When I was in hospital, actually, obviously I wouldn't name a famous personality, but there was a famous personality who actually had the gall to come into the hospital at that time and actually, on the pretext of visiting me and the baby, actually come up to me and in conversation of, obviously saying congratulations and saying that, like, what's with you? Why would you name your son Temur? And I was like, and I had delivered, like, it hadn't even been 8 hours. And I was like, I literally started crying, and that person was asked to leave. So my journey with that started then, where I just made up my mind and I said, this is my boy, this is my son. I don't care what happens. As long as he's happy and he's healthy and we're happy, that's it. I'm just going to go home and just go ahead and go away with this thought. I don't want to know anything else, what people's trolling or what's happening.
Okay, so I think you can feel the pain and the anger, but very clearly this was her first born. She's going through an exact deja vu with the second born. And, I take Sandip's point that she's an actor, she's a famous person, she'll draw disproportionate attention. But does it reflect something larger about what's happening in our society? I think that's what we're here to talk about. I need to take quick last comments, 30 seconds each. I'll start with you, Amri.
That's exactly what Islamophobia is. No?
I think so.
Spare the kids.
I think so.
Spare the
but
kids.
I also think we live in a time where everybody has an opinion on everything. So, tomorrow someone will say, why did you name your sister Bahar? So, pata nahi. I mean, we live also in some pagal, crazy.
So what I feel, Barkha, in army, you must be knowing, we have this QRT, quick reaction team. So I would request government to have a quick reaction team, a QRT of their own. And the moment they see a hate speech, or an article like that, just put a block on it. Arrest the people. Just curb it then and there. Take action.
Yeah.
Then only we will be able. We need government support. They have to. Otherwise, it's a lost game.
Ranjana, very quickly.
This is political. Let's not be under any wrong impression. This is totally political. It is really done with intention. And I think this is dangerous for it's violation of India's constitution. Every citizen of India is an Indian. And I think that's something which is known and which is accepted by a lot of people, fortunately. Fortunately, countries really not just social media and some of the media people who are trying to, fan it and flare it. Certainly, that's not the case in the country. People are really living with a lot of harmony here. And of course, we should not ignore these one-off occasions, because we must come with heavy criticism.
And that's my worry.
We have to stop it. We have to stop it. They must get punished.
Quickly to Sandip and Tehseen, I really have to close then. Sandip, to Tehseen's point, the fringe is now the mainstream. And what's happening with Kareena being an illustration of that. Asif was about to give us the history of Jahangir. My point is, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what the history of Jahangir is. She can name her child anything she wants to, right?
I have no quarrels with that. I totally agree with that, And if people are doing it, whether you call it stupidity or whether you call it perversion, or it has to be condemned. I see this as a social malaise. Obviously, it has got political overtones, undertones, people taking advantage of it. It is definitely there. But let's not get into this. The fringe is now mainstream, etc. Tehseen today has a problem with Mr. Owaisi. Tomorrow, if Mr. Owaisi ties up with Congress somewhere, he'll become very kosher. I personally think Mr. Owaisi is one of the more sensible leaders, although he comes across, strident or much more. So that's a different point. So we have to condemn it without any factor. That is how things have happened, and unless we do it, it won't. But let's not again, make these into issues about Mr. Modi and why Mr. Modi has not condemned this. If tomorrow somebody were to, the same police or Mr. Modi or people, I take Afreen's point of QRT, if they do a QRT on a similar Muslim statement, what will be the backlash?
It's very difficult to actually agree for governments. Governments will always be accused of curbing free speech. Communities have to throw up their own standards of what is acceptable and what is not. Amreen, that's the problem with your proposal. Tehseen, I had forgotten the name, by the way, of that West Bengal cleric. It was Abbas Siddiqui.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted my producer.
Pathetic of Congress to tie up with him. And I take Sandip's point. The Congress, worse than these lunatics, is when tying up with the left lunatics. And I've said this number of times on your show. So the left with this joker was worse for the Congress. The Congress has nothing to do with it. And I want to remind Sandip that it was Mr. Owaisi's brother who made distasteful speeches about Hindu gods and goddesses. And Prime Minister Manmohan Singh not only condemned him, sent him to jail. But I want to make one more quick point, because that's the main point I want to make. Barkha, we always lived in we overall a society, we've been together, but we've had a society that's had Islamophobia at some level, where we've had distrust for the Muslim. That is now in the open. So, for example, we've always had discrimination against Muslims in housing. That is now open when we see that in Moradabad, or we see the late BJP MP Hukum Singh in Kareena making up lies after lies about Muslim population growing in Kareena, and that being mainstream. That did not happen before. That since 2014 mainstreaming is happening, and I think it is time for that mainstreaming to stop. Once you have a Prime Minister like Manmohan Singh who can take charge and say this must end, that will stop then.
I think we've ended where we began, with party politics, and that is not what this conversation is about for the ordinary Indian citizen. For citizens, it is about who your neighbors are, who you can date, who you can marry, who you can be friends with, and your own sense of security, your safety, your right to your life, and your constitutional freedoms as an Indian. And that is where our focus and our attention must be. Thank you to Asif, Ranjana, Amreen, Sandip, and Tehseen, and to Mr. Ellen Rao prior to that, as we look at not just the arrests in the anti-Muslim sloganeering case in the heart of the capital, but also the targeting of Kareena Kapoor, this time for the name of her second born. We'll continue to bring you the biggest issues of our country. See you tomorrow, same time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.